Okay, so today I turn 30 years old. Now, there is no need to begin playing the violin or sending me sympathy cards just yet. It's not like I'm applying for a bus pass, but seriously, how did we get here so fast? You know, 1 minute you are 18 years old playing beer pong at house parties and kicking the football around on the field with your mates and living a life void of any responsibilities. Then you blink, you wake up and suddenly you are 30 years old with a wife, 2 kids, and the highlight of your week now is a trip to the Home Depot to stock up on more household essential items.
Actually pretty nice little Saturday. We're gonna go to Home Depot. Yeah, buy some wallpaper, maybe get some flooring, stuff like that. Maybe Bed Bath & Beyond, I don't know. I don't know if we'll have enough time.
Now, it is easy to start panicking at this milestone. You know, your 20s were supposed to be for figuring things out, right? But maybe life hasn't panned out the way that you thought it would by now. Maybe you don't quite have it all figured out yet. You know, you're watching the clock thinking that time is slipping away and you're still trying to almost solve the puzzle before you can actually start living. If any of this sounds familiar, you are in the right place, as today I want to share 10 lessons that I have learned during my time on this planet that hopefully might just give you a little bit of perspective, gratitude, and optimism for your future. So grab a cuppa, get comfy, and let's dive into what 3 decades of figuring it out has taught me. Now, it is no secret that for most of my adult life, I've been searching for my purpose. From a relatively young age, I felt certain that I wasn't going to live a normal life, nor did I want to. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with living a normal life. And oftentimes, I envy those that do and have utter contentment with their reality, you know, working a steady job, cashing a paycheck, and living for the weekends. For me, however, I always feared the simple notion of being the same as everybody else. Now, call that an overinflated ego or a superiority complex, but I was sure that my purpose on this earth had a greater cause, to do something profoundly different and impactful. Now, growing up, I would watch movies and I would picture myself as the hero. I was a dreamer, truth be told, and there was almost a kind of progressive inception unfolding in my mind throughout my youth. Almost a kind of deep-rooted belief system that I was going to make something of myself. Now, what that something was, I didn't know then, and I still don't know now. You know, I've clearly chosen a path, one in which I've been on for well over a decade now, but there is still a part of me that knows I have so much more to give to the world, yet struggle for that to be known, seen, or heard. Now, maybe you are feeling the same way in your own respective life and personal endeavors. So, without further ado, here is lesson number 1. If you know what you are worth, then go out and get what you are worth. If you have such deeply rooted beliefs that you are worth more than your current reality, you simply owe it to yourself to try. Now, don't get me wrong, this can be a very painful path. Trying is inherently painful. It's hard, it's exhausting. You are going to have to deal with rejection, setbacks, and doors being slammed in your face. Ultimately, you are asking for the universe to provide something more, which, let's be honest, isn't going to come easy. However, the pain of not trying, of giving in, or settling for the easy path, for me, that is far more painful. You know, living with the regret of knowing that you had a dream, a goal, or grand aspirations for your life, for yourself, and you didn't pursue it, or simply gave in when things got tough. The pain of regret for me is far more painful than knowing that you didn't have the minerals to step up to the plate, stand up and be counted, or endure the hardship. Now, this brings me on to lesson number 2. Everything you do in life is hard. A quote that always stuck with me was this: easy decisions, hard life. Hard decisions, easy life. Now, I want you to think about it this way. Whatever decisions you make in life, naturally, you have to deal with the ramifications. Not only in the actual outcome they provide, but more so the emotional toll that those decisions bear. Let's say that you do in fact give up on your endeavor, that you cast aside the potential that you believed you had. Would that be easier in the outlay? Absolutely. You can go ahead and cancel that gym membership. You can stop trying to figure it out. You can quit burning the midnight oil and turn off that morning alarm. You can sit back and relax. And that sounds peaceful, right? Maybe you would find contentment in the comfort for a while. Maybe easing up on yourself might work wonders for a while. It may ease the pressure and lessen the burden that you carry in having this grand aspiration and vision for your life and the hurt and hardship that therefore causes. But the hefty price tag that comes with that is not only regret, but a sorely damaged reputation that you have with yourself. Which brings me on to lesson number 3. Do you know what the single most important relationship you have in your life is? It is the one that you have with yourself. Now, this can of course be a profoundly positive and productive relationship, or it can be a wildly damaging and toxic relationship. I'd certainly be inclined to say that even now I still frequently flip between the two, as I'm sure many of us do. However, here's what I have learned. The strength of the relationship I have with myself is predicated entirely on the reputation I have with myself. When I self-actualize and do the things I said I was going to do, my confidence grows. I feel unstoppable, powerful, and in control. However, when I don't do the things I said I was going to do, I damage that reputation and with it, that relationship with myself. I resent myself in many ways in those times. My confidence almost disappears entirely. Remember, confidence isn't walking into a room and thinking that you are better than everybody, but walking in there and not having to compare yourself to anybody at all. Confidence is simply a feeling predicated on how well you trust and believe in yourself and that comfort you have in your own skin. Now, the problem is, you can't break up with yourself. You can't simply avoid the mirror. You are you, and you have to live with that. Now, the good news is that you and you alone can in fact control your actions and therefore dictate that narrative and develop that reputation, just as in the same way you can destroy it. So given that, you have to do everything you can do to keep that relationship strong, which brings me on to lesson number 4. Now, I recently did a full video on this, but I want to reiterate the point. Most people go through life slowly accumulating responsibilities naturally, so much so they end up living a life built to solely serve others, not understanding that the longer they neglect themselves, their needs and their own personal development, the less of a fit state they end up being in to do that very thing. At the end of the day, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So no matter how much you want to lead and serve others, it isn't possible if you aren't first and foremost stable and therefore able to help others. How can you help others if you can't even help yourself? And here's the deal. A lack of self-prioritization leads to resentment, hatred even. And with that, you become a more passive-aggressive, intolerable version of you. Now, the biggest problem with self-prioritization is that most people see it as selfish. I disagree. I disagree entirely. Now, I'm not saying that you need to live a life void of helping others. That's certainly not the case. I'd go as far to say that helping others is one of the most profoundly soul-filling acts that any person can do. However, the only way you can truly help others is to be the best version of yourself, and that means protecting your energy and, I suppose, ensuring that ultimately there is enough in the tank for you and whatever is left, you give to others. Now, this perfectly brings me on to lesson number 5. Most of us are afraid to chase our dreams or do right by ourselves for fear of what other people think. We are worried about how we'll look when we fail, or what people will say when we no longer live our lives or act in the manner we once perhaps did, or the way in which the people around us have become accustomed to. Now, having always gone out on a limb to chase my goals, consistently evolve, grow, and progress for well over a decade, I feel pretty well qualified in this area to give advice. I've dealt with all of these feelings over and again. At the start, you often have your parents who want to protect you and not see you get hurt whilst pursuing your dreams, therefore inevitably, in many ways, add resistance whilst you are trying to take flight. Then of course you have your friends who in many instances almost become the crabs in the bucket. The minute you try and leave the bucket, they attempt to drag you right back down. Then you also have that inevitable fear that whatever it is you are doing, the endeavor that you have, it isn't going to work and that you are going to fail. Not only proving the naysayers right, but also being a laughingstock, I suppose, for the world to see. Now, whilst this does seem like a rational fear, it's actually pretty irrational when you think about it. Nobody, and I mean nobody, cares. Everybody is focused on themselves and their own problems and their own lives. How often do you really, and I mean really, concern yourself with what anybody else is doing? If you are doing it right, you shouldn't be concerning yourself with what anybody is doing at all. There aren't enough hours in the day, nor do you have enough brain capacity or headspace to focus on somebody else's success, nor failures, only those of your own. Look, at the end of the day, your life is your life. This is your story that you are writing. These are your dreams, your goals and aspirations. So fuck what anybody else says or thinks. Now they'll talk, that's a given, but talk is cheap and action speaks louder than words. So you simply have to focus on your mission. Win, lose or draw, the mere fact that you had the goal to step up to the plate and take a swing is all that truly matters. As when you lie in bed at night, your head is on the pillow, only you have to live with the knowledge that either you tried or regret the fact that you didn't. Now, let's be honest, some people are super fortunate in life. They perhaps get lucky, or maybe they're given the silver spoon. However, most of us, when all's said and done, are on our own in this, great wide world, and our success, our contentment, our happiness, and our accomplishments comes down to us and us alone. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's going to carve out your path. No hand of God is going to reach down from the sky and drag you up to that higher ground that you've been searching for. I mean, it might. It certainly might. Anything could happen. But I absolutely wouldn't back on that happening anytime soon. You and you alone are responsible, and that is what you can control. And that may seem like a frightening prospect, but there is some level of power in just knowing that. Everybody on earth has a right to a seat at the table of life, but it's entirely up to you whether or not you earn that privilege. You have to back yourself and you have to believe in you and your capabilities. If you don't believe in you, how do you ever expect anybody else to? In life, we get what we project. So continue playing that violin and peddling the story about how tough it has been and how things didn't work out for you. See where that gets you. Now, this may mean that in many ways you almost have to fake it till you make it, paint on a smile, but let's be frank, that's what everybody did until they'd put in enough hours of doing the thing, whatever that thing was, until they'd had enough hours of practice, inevitably stacked the undeniable proof of how good they are at doing the thing, and they got their chance. Now, it may mean, learning on the job or figuring it out along the way, but that is simply doing the thing. There's no need to wait until the planets align and you feel worthy enough to deserve the success or the plaudits that you're searching for. Most of us put ourselves in a box and we label the walls of that box. I don't have willpower, I don't have discipline, I'm not a confident person, I can't stick to a diet, I'm not a morning person, the list goes on. And do you want to know why you believe all of those limitations? Well, it's because you've sold yourself the lie that they were unequivocally true. How? Well, by repeatedly living by those statements year after year, so much so they became true. They became your reality through repetition. You trained your subconscious to believe those statements as utter facts, not merely the fiction that they actually are. Now, in the same way you can believe such falsities, you can in fact retrain your subconscious in believing the exact opposite. And how? Well, by doing the things you believed to be impossible, no matter how against the grain it feels. Let's be frank, every limitation is simply a decision or a behavior pattern that you can choose to lean into or you can choose to lean away from. Now, for me, the first step is outlining your standards and how you identify yourself, which brings me on to lesson number 8. So given that the version of you right now is the causation of the way you have lived your life up until this point, is it therefore not feasible to conclude that you can in fact decide to live differently, change course and begin walking down a different path entirely? Is it really that inconceivable to imagine formulating entirely new standards for yourself? Your identity is formed through the repetition of acting or behaving in a certain manner repeatedly. So once you decide to set new standards, you can then begin progressively developing an entirely new identity for yourself, one that isn't lazy, nor lacks willpower or discipline, but one that holds higher value to themselves and their word, and does precisely what they said they were going to do. Now, I'm certainly not saying that it is easy, but equally, living in an unfulfilling reality in the shadow of your potential is certainly not what I'd consider easy. Now, this all starts by stacking wins, building that reputation with yourself and deciding that you are going to be somebody of principle, who has integrity and value over themselves and their word. Somebody who knows their worth and is willing to go out on a limb in turning that vision into reality. Somebody that doesn't give into temporary satisfactions, giving up what they want the most for what they want right now. But has the foresight, I guess, to delay gratification and is willing to sacrifice today for the betterment of tomorrow. Now, one of the biggest aspects of this is being clear about who you are, what you want, and how you want to live your life, and not being persuaded or distracted, shall we say, by the influence of others, which brings me on to lesson number 9. Now, I know we've already discussed not caring what others think, but let's be honest, most of us are people pleasers. We're good people, we want everybody to be happy. However, oftentimes this comes at the expense of us living authentically or true to our values. If you are constantly swayed or distracted by the influence of others, you will live a life of resentment and frustration. It will be a perpetual cycle of taking one step forward and 2 steps back. Come for drinks, let's go grab some fast food, live a little. If you are easily persuaded to go against your values and not follow through on the things you said you was going to do, then you'll always find yourself falling short and never getting to that higher ground that you were looking for. Now, will you isolate yourself a little? Probably. Will you upset a few people, ruffle a couple of feathers? Almost certainly, but at least you are staying true to yourself, which is single-handedly one of the most important factors in you living authentically in line with your values and your vision, which acts as a perfect segue into my 10th and final lesson. There is a quote that suggests that you are the sum of the 10 people you spend the most time with. Now think about this for a second. Are the people currently around you in line with your vision and values? Do they motivate you? Do they inspire you? Do they hold you to a higher standard and make you want to be better than you were yesterday? You see, our environment is wildly indicative of how we think, behave, and act, which is therefore what we become. It is impossible to swim against the tide forever. Now, sure, you can be motivated to do that for a while, but in the end, you'll just inevitably be dragged back down the current and washed up back to shore alongside the rest of the people that are currently around you. To be better, you have to be surrounded by better people moving in the same direction. Now, I'm not suggesting that you simply just cull all of those who don't provide value. Not everybody in your life will provide value, at least not when it comes to personal development. But you can be cautious of the time spent with those people and be open to the idea of seeking out a new community of like-minded individuals. Behavior in many ways is caught, not taught. Seeing others hold themselves to a higher standard truly encourages you to do the same. But not only that, to be of value and remain like-minded with those people, you have to continuously seek growth and not stay stuck. Otherwise, in many ways, you just become a burden to the pack, a negative source of energy that zaps the positivity and optimism out of the room with your limiting beliefs and pessimistic mindset. Now, sure, it isn't always sunshine and rainbows, and sometimes you will be sat in the mud. However, with the right people around you, they will sit in the mud with you for a while before lending a hand and leading you back to the path of righteousness and progress, as opposed to, simply leading you back to the way things were just because things went tough. Now, whilst there is stacks of valuable personal development lessons that I've shared with you there from my 30 years on this planet, I did mention that I also wanted to give a little perspective and offer you the chance to reflect and have some gratitude for your life. Now, I truly believe both perspective and gratitude are the cornerstones to living a rich, fulfilling life, as you can easily get lost in the sea of procrastination, overthinking and always chasing more while never stopping to take a second, come up for air, take a look around you and appreciate all that you have right now. If you are healthy with a roof over your head, you are already so much richer than you realize. There's so much to be grateful for that more often than not we simply take for granted, from the air you breathe to the people who care about you that are still here right now in the present, people who genuinely care, whilst we spend so much of our lives just trying to impress or influence irrelevant people while being concerned about their opinion or what they think about you, people who wouldn't even be at your funeral. So as difficult as it is, and I'm the guiltiest party here, you have to stop, take a long look around you and be grateful. We live in a world where there is so much abundance and endless opportunities, something that generations before us never had. And I think there's a podcast with Jimmy Carr where he said this perfectly, that things have never been objectively better, but subjectively worse, given that you couldn't even have a hot shower 50 years ago, yet we take that for granted. But we live in a world where we spend so much time screen sucking, comparing our lives to others, thanks to, I suppose, the power, but also peril of social media. But remember this, comparison is the thief of joy. And I want to leave you with this. Judge your life not by how it measures up to others, but by your own progress and evolution. Be proud, but never complacent. Proud of who you are, yet always seeking growth, because it's the journey of growth, of becoming that leads to a fulfilling life. And it's not about chasing more money, status, or fame, but about deepening your understanding of yourself. What truly fills your cup, what makes you happy. We only get one life, so let's make sure we squeeze every drop out of it and leave absolutely nothing to chance. Now, I've had my fair share of successes in my 30 years, just as I'm sure you have, and equally I've had just as many failures. So here's to not letting the ghosts of our past define us, but using them as lessons to carry into our next chapter. Cheers to 30 years, and here is to the next 30. I cannot wait to see what is in store. Thank you for watching this video. Please drop me a like, share with somebody who needs to see this and hear this, and subscribe also if you like my content, and I will catch you in the next one.